What's up, YouTube? Extra Time, driven by Continental for May 13th, 2019. A big show, MLS Week 11, tied up with a bow on top. Who are the winners, Doyle? Who won?
Ooh. How about anybody who doesn't give Game of Thrones spoilers on this show? What kind of trash human being would do such a thing?
That means Bobby's a loser, by the way, and that's why Ben Bear was replacing him.
And I agree with you. And talking about replacements, 2 coaches let go last week. Both teams won this weekend. Wiebe, I think we might perform better if you
But I love this squad. All my players perform well. They love me, right? What
kind of. I'm here to play Guess That DP.
Designated player. Will you win? Bobby Warshaw will be here too. We're starting right now. Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T MLS studios in Midtown Manhattan. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Dave Goss. It's a special Monday, so we have the both of them, Bobby Warshaw and Matt Doyle. Welcome, boys. Big show today. Also big news. What might that news be? Any guesses? Anybody?
I'm watching Pluto TV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
That's
I didn't
the
see
big
that.
news.
Yeah, exactly. We're now on Pluto TV. The rapid ascent of Extra Time, driven by Continental, continues.
Does this mean we can just watch TV during the show now?
I mean, he's basically been doing that. Bobby watches games
well,
during
then I'm
the show.
gonna do that too.
So I assumed that you were doing whatever personal business that
Forget
you
you
had,
guys.
and I was the only one here that was actually focused and on top of the game. So,
Sorry,
yeah, that's
I'm
what's
watching
up.
Pluto TV. I'm not
Pluto
paying
TV
attention.
is here. MLS has a channel. It is channel 203. We're going to talk about Week 11 in just 1 second, go over the whole thing, winners, losers, and the like. But here...
Legally Blonde is on right now, by the way.
Really?
But
Yeah,
also
the
MLS
original
in
one.
15. MLS in 15 is dope.
Yeah, that is. Your choice. Legally Blonde or MLS in 15, depending on your time. Here are the kind words that Extra Time has gotten from the Sports Business Journal to help announce this deal. They really laid it on thick for us, guys. You know what's on there? Quote, existing content like Extra Time. That's right, baby. We exist, and we are on Pluto TV, channel
Mom,
203.
Dad, my teachers, to all of you that supported
Yes.
me when I was like this tall.
We
It's for
existed,
you.
and now we've made this
And now
jump
we
up.
still exist.
Yes. Matchday Central also on Pluto TV. The Movement. The first episode is out on DC. It's awesome. Chocolate City. Kalen Carr cannot be here today because he's apparently on another Movement shoot, living the
As I was leaving,
jet-setting life.
As I was leaving the studio last night at about 11:30 p.m.,
He was picking up equipment. If I had to guess right,
I think Kalen Carr sleeps at the studio.
he might.
I think Kalen might live here.
He lives that life, man.
It shocked me. It shocked me to see Kalen, because he had the day off yesterday, showing up at the studio 11:30 midnight. I don't know, man.
Day off means very little. Means very, very little. This week in MLS, that's on there. Instant replay. Classic matches, like I was just watching Zlatan score his banger against LAFC. And, of course, match replays from 2019. So Pluto TV, it is absolutely scot-free. You can watch it on your computer, as Dave was doing just now. I thank you for switching back to what we're doing. Channel 203.
It was the end. She was already giving her speech at graduation.
Gotcha. You
Woods.
knew?
I've never actually seen that movie.
You're pathetic.
Yeah, you could. Pluto TV has...
Straight out. That's all I'm going to say.
Pluto TV has DVR.
You
so
embarrassed me.
go check that out.
All right.
Let's talk Week 11. Let's talk winners. And I don't think that you can have this segment or this show without starting with LAFC. Record pace for them, 3-0 win against Columbus Crew. They were called by Caleb Porter, the Man City of MLS. Carlos Vela got a garbage goal in this one. Mark Anthony Kaye got a pass/goal. I'm on team pass here. Anybody else?
Team shot.
Team pass?
Obviously not a shot.
Yeah, team pass.
Obviously.
Yeah, but
Definitely.
passing is better than shooting.
What?
I'm just
In that
saying it's a
position?
more beautiful goal.
Got you.
Literally passed it in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the essence of the beautiful game at its highest level.
Intentionality, we could debate that all we want, but LAFC are first in points, 27. Points per game, 2.25. Goals scored, 29. Goals per game, 2.42. Goals scored, goals per game. That goes along. Goals allowed, tied with Atlanta with 8 allowed. Goals allowed per game, goal differential, plus 21. The entire Eastern Conference, the playoff field? Can't match that goal differential. 7 teams. They have the best start post-shootout era by far. 2018 Red Bulls, who set the points record, by the way, had 22 through 12. They have 27 through 12. They've got 8 wins through 12. Again, better than Red Bulls.
How many games have they played so far this year?
12.
So chill.
Yeah, I'm just driving it home.
We honestly couldn't answer that question. He just said through 12 15
I thought it
times.
was a trick question at that point. I'm sitting here like, what are you trying to do?
I was
to me?
like, wow, Gasman really is watching Legally Blonde right now.
Great movie.
So, LAFC, Man City of MLS. We'll get to Caleb Porter's quote in just a second because it might say more about Columbus Crew than it does LAFC. This team is dominant. What
For more context on the dominance, every stat you just listed off, they're on track to set the league record. They're not just leading the league right now. They're on track to set the league record. So those are the box score stats. And then you have the eye test. You watch this team play, and they're clearly the best team in the league. There's some other very good teams. I think the Sounders, when they're healthy, are excellent. I think Houston, if they stay together, can be really, really good. I love what the Union are doing. I think Toronto's ceiling is really high. I think DC are going to end up being better than they look right now. LAFC are still clearly the best team in the league. And the eye test and the box score stats, and then you go to the underlying analytics, like we're right around the point, 10, 12 games, where expected goal differential starts to be really predictive. You start like you have a better grasp of how good any team could be via expected goal differential rather than via just points per game. And their expected goal differential says they're actually underperforming a little bit. They're at 2.25 points per game, which would give them 77 points on the year. They should actually be up closer to like 2.4 or 2.5 points per game. They dropped 2 results in the last 2 weeks, the game against the Fire and the game at Seattle, where they just didn't finish, but they dominated both of those games. They just had their slump. That was their slump. And here they are, still out in front, looking like they're getting stronger and stronger. They have Diamande back. They have Lee Win back. This team's really good.
Can I point something out? Ask a question. Who is or was more dominant through these first 12 games? Atlanta United, from watching them in 2018, or LAFC right now? Because I asked that question to frame this point. I would have taken Atlanta United because they were very, 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 very good at a single thing. In transition, they could absolutely crush you. What are LAFC very, very, very good at? It's probably winning the ball in the middle of the field and scoring within those first 2 passes via Carlos Vela, Diego Rossi through the lines. When I think about what LAFC are very good at, I think as the season goes, teams have more tape, teams are a little bit more aligned in what they want to do, and also points become more precious. Because let's be honest, through the first 10 games of a Major League Soccer season, teams aren't desperate for points yet. They're still trying to figure out who they are. They have this ideal vision of who they want to be. They are not scraping by for points. We saw the Chicago Fire scrape by for points against LAFC, and they got one. They drew LAFC 0-0. So I do think if you look at what LAFC are very good at, and how teams will adapt throughout the year, there has to be at least some concern or some idea that teams will start to take that away from LAFC, whereas with Red Bulls in Atlanta of 2018, you couldn't stop what they were doing. You couldn't stop Atlanta's transition. You couldn't really stop what the Red Bulls were doing until teams decided to just kick it long, which is what we've seen since. But that is my one thought with the greatness of LAFC right now is, can't you stop it if you actually do try to, or you do intentionally create a game plan for playing them?
I agree with Bobby in terms of the way you're thinking about this. It sounds like what we talked about with Atlanta at the start of last year and processing it the same way. And when you talk about greatest teams of all time in MLS and you talk about Supporters Shield, it's how you are on your bad days, because MLS, everything that you can do great is fine. You could be the 3rd seed team in the West or East and on your day be the best team in MLS, and going to MLS Cup, you'd be favorites. But Supporters Shield is more about how you ride the highs and lows throughout the season and where you're at when you're bad, how you get results when you're bad, what you do well when you're bad. And then when you look at this team, it's a lot of young guys. So the question is just, how does Eddie Atuesta handle a full season in MLS? How does Carlos Vela handle a full season in MLS? Because we've never seen that at this level or any level. Continuity over the course of 12 months is not Carlos Vela's forte. Bright spots like this, great moments is. So for LAFC, it's going to be fun. It's not maybe watching them race against other teams in 2019. It's watching them race against history and test themselves. Can they be good for 7 or 8 straight months?
Carlos Vela is scoring goals in the bunches. I think it's 12 right now. He is the Golden Boot leader. Easily Zlatan second. He's got a lot of PKs. He doesn't want to go to the Gold Cup. That ought to help them both in the Golden Boot race, but obviously in the Supporter Shield race and otherwise the points race. LAFC or the field in trophies. I'm talking total trophies. So like last year it would have been the field that took Atlanta because they just got the one.
Yeah.
This is a team that could be Toronto FC-esque, which is we just win everything that we're in. Not Canadian Championship, but Open Cup, Shield, Cup, etc. What would you take?
Now, I would take the field. I think that LAFC are going to. I don't want to say run away with the Shield race, but they're going to win it fairly comfortably. But it's the field, man. It's one team versus 23 other teams. Seattle's not going to stand still this summer. Toronto's not going to stand still.
But is it going to be too late? For Supporters Shield, the question is
for Supporters Shield.
So then MLS Cup becomes different, but you need
MLS
them to
Cup
make
and
big
the
moves.
Open Cup. And the one game that LAFC looked not great this year was the game against Vancouver. It wasn't actually the games against Chicago or Seattle. I think if you play those games 100 times, LAFC win 95 of them. The
53-47.
53-47, yeah. The game against Vancouver, when they had to replace both fullbacks, when they had Schaff Brewer on the right and Hämäläinen on the left, those guys couldn't quite figure it out. And they had a couple other changes as well, and those guys couldn't figure it out, which makes me think, okay, well, first of all, they're an injury away. And what made TFC in 2017 so amazing is they had a ton of injuries, but they still played through them and had 69 points and won everything they played from. And then they just don't have the depth to probably compete in the Open Cup. So what I think you still have to take the field for both tournaments, but I'll be surprised if LAFC don't win the Supporter Shield.
By the way, Open Cup is important mention. That's Americans based. There is a roster limit for you on players from outside the U.S. So you do have to balance that a little bit differently. And, of course, the home and away can be a different thing as well with the draw. I would take the field as well. It's just a numbers game, too. If they were in the East, I think I would go LAFC because I'd feel confident about the Shield and I'd feel more confident about the Cup. But if you look through that Western Conference, I think there's more teams that could knock them off. We'll talk about the Union in just a little bit. They've been winners for basically the last month or so, and they won't be this week, but ultimately, Union fans, you're still at the top. I want to hear this quote, though, from Caleb Porter after this game. He has been extremely quotable the past couple weeks, and we have more coming from him in the mailbag about expected goals, by the way. But here's his quote a la Man City and LAFC.
In my opinion, and watching all the games and all the teams, they're the Man City of MLS. The budget, the talent, the way they play, that's the best team in the league.
Compliment or a dig, Bobby? What was that?
Yeah,
it definitely feels like a compliment.
That's what I've been trying to figure out. On one side, to be put in the same sentence as Manchester City is a compliment, right? It's an ode to what LAFC accomplished, both in crushing everybody and also the way they play, because they do possess in similar ways. They do put players in the same spots. They have the same ideas that Man City use. But Andrew, I can't get past the fact that he said resources or he said spending, budget. Was that the word?
Yeah. That's the word, yep.
Multiple times. And I do think there's a part where Caleb Porter, once again, is using a phrase or using his post-game comments to distract a little bit because Columbus Crew are struggling. So what do you talk about? Oh, we're struggling because the opponent, they play good soccer, but let's remind you that they have the budget, that they also spend more than us. And if you have the budget, if you spend more than your opponent, you're probably going to win. So good job, LAFC. I'm proud of you. You used all that money really well.
It's also a message to his players, right? He said he's proud of them for how they played, everything they gave, trying to give some sort of positivity. You talk about on the bad days. Well, 6 of 7 losses. They've had some bad days. So there comes a point where the coach has to say, hey, guys, we're not as bad as our record makes us look, just for self-preservation for himself and the squad. Like, hey, these aren't indicative. It's okay. We'll find a way back from this one. But I am curious what you folks at home think about that one.
By the way, I thought it was nothing.
You thought it was nothing?
I just think everyone has a team or a phrase that they use when they talk about soccer in general. Some people say Barcelona. Some people still say Man U. I think he just said Man City.
And Caleb Porter, he's going to go to the team with Pep, right?
Yeah.
But here's what we have to get. It's never nothing, right? Post-game comments are never nothing. These people are seasoned pros, and more so now than ever. More so now do coaches and managers around the world use their post-game press conference to send a message to someone. If you're some managers, we won't get into that right now because they no longer
pink slip? Is that what you're saying?
They no longer have jobs.
I don't want to coach this team anymore. Please, dismiss me.
For coaches that care about having their jobs the following week, there is always a message. There's always a reason to what they're saying. And I don't think Caleb Porter is the kind of guy who the reason to what he's saying is to compliment the opponent and only compliment the opponent.
He's saying they're the biggest team in the league. That's what he's saying. That's what that comment means.
Okay, so what's the next layer? Why does it matter if he's saying that? He doesn't care about LAFC. He is not trying to give LAFC a compliment.
No, it's an easy answer for him to say after he's lost that game. Yeah, that's fine. But I'm saying every team in the league, every coach in the league will probably say something similar, or many coaches. They would just use different teams to compare it, where you were trying to see if because he used Man City doesn't mean he's saying it's just because they spend a lot of money, which could make sense, but it wouldn't in this scenario because they're not by far the highest spending team in Major League Soccer.
Man City just won a title. They are probably, you take the field, though, if you're talking about other titles within England. Just throwing it out there. Let me know your thoughts. 401-206-0MLS. Other winner I'm going to throw out there.
Talk about Watford in the FA, right?
Yeah, exactly. Other winners. Teams that fired their head coaches or dismissed or whatever verbiage you want to use there, but not the Rapids, unfortunately. Not the Rapids. They still haven't won a game here. But FC Cincinnati won. That was good. The Revs won as well. Also good. I mean, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, this is good. That's at least that's a bump.
Yeah. And they did
Good sentence, Wiebe. Good sentence.
I mean, I'd like.
It was. They did it in different ways, and credit to Yohan Demey, the 29-year-old Frenchman who's the interim head coach in Cincy.
What were you doing when you were 29, Doyle?
Actually, I don't even. I kind of do want to know.
No, you do not.
Was it illegal?
It in certain states. I think he correctly assessed his midfield talent. And if you look at the way they had played over the first 2 months under Alan Koch, they just skipped the midfield every single time. It was just long ball after long ball to, they have a bunch of guys who could run up top. And it wasn't working, clearly. They had one goal in the last 11 hours of soccer, none from open play. It wasn't great, and that's why Alan Koch got fired. But in Victor Ulloa, Leonardo Bertoni, and Frankie Amaya, they have three central midfielders who can get on the ball and actually use it a little bit. And none of them is, Valderrama. But they're all pretty mobile. They're all pretty intelligent. They all were able to just complete simple passes, pass and move, and open up the field at midfield. And that did a much better job of creating space to run into for the likes of Darren Maddox, for Greg Garza on the overlap. It was fun to watch. They scored two gorgeous goals. The first one was 16 passes. The second one was 11.
Andrew, we need to back up for 1 second to the what was Doyle doing at age 29.
Okay.
I think we need people, if you're listening to this or watching this right now, I need you to tweet at Extra Time and say what you think Matt Doyle is doing at age 29.
Imagination cannot do you justice here. I don't think you could actually peg it, to be honest with
Can
you.
you give a location, Matt? Where were you in May?
Was this
when you were 29?
Williamsburg pre-gentrification?
Yeah,
or in the throes of.
In the throes of.
Yeah.
Let us know what
Doyle
you
was
think, Matt.
active gentrifying.
I was. I'm sorry.
He was drinking more lattes than you've ever
I
seen.
literally
in your
moved to
life.
Williamsburg in
Get
2001.
at Extra Time. Let the world know what you think Matt Doyle was doing on a Monday afternoon when he was 29.
Yeah, the Monday afternoon part is a key. That's a key. Let's say like 2 p.m. Eastern. Mike Lapper, Revs interim coach, says there's enough talent on that team to do something special. Maybe not win MLS, he says, but something special. New England 3, San Jose 1, Bobby. How'd they do it? Good vibes. They needed them.
I don't know, man. I don't often say that on this show, but I don't know what they did. Here's what I will say. I didn't see anything unique about what they did. I didn't see anything particularly noteworthy. They basically went back to the basics. They put their best attackers on the field. They got Diego Fagundes, Christian Pania, Juan Agudelo, and Teal Bunbury. The guys who, remember when the Revs were firmly a playoff team through the first, 2/5, 40% of last season, with that as their attacking core.
41-59.
Yeah, 41.
You guys are learning. I'm proud of you guys for picking up on the nuance of numbers. But they basically went back. They went back to their best attackers. And the truth about San Jose is that it's a boom or a bust system. When it works, when they win their duels and they connect their passes, it's very good. When they lose the duels, when they don't connect their passes and have turnovers, there's a ton of space for teams to exploit. And it got exploited this time.
There's different scenarios that can happen when a coach gets let go. Both of these teams were one where it was sour and people were miserable. And so just the pure happiness of it changing, that doesn't always happen with the change. Sometimes some players are upset. Sometimes the locker room's divided over it. These two didn't feel that way. I'm not in the locker rooms. Neither were the coaches, it seemed like. So they both seem to be similar scenarios. And so in this league with talent pretty similar on a lot of levels, if you go out and you're excited to play and you want to play for that coach, and guys like Christian Pania who weren't even making the bench all of a sudden, like you go out and it's just a different game for you for a week or two. That's not.
Can I just
purely
add
sustainable.
what the Revs did? It looked to me like they just said, let's just go win our individual matchups on the flanks. Let's win, let's have Pania on one side, and it was kind of Agudelo, and sometimes Fagundes, and sometimes Bunbury on the other side, and Castillo on the overlap. It said, if we win out wide, we'll be able to crack this team open, and that's what they did.
And I do just want to go add to what David said, because I hope it doesn't sound too simple to say, oh, the players were just happy to play. Because having been in locker rooms, good locker rooms, bad locker rooms, having played for bad coaches and then having them get fired and playing for the new coach, it is a competitive advantage to have 11 guys who want to be on the field, who feel fresh, who feel energetic, who are just happy. Because throughout the entire season, you don't feel that way often. And yes, tactics matter and nuance to the way you set up your game plan matter, but there's also just a competitive advantage to being energetic and wanting to be out there and excited to play soccer. So that is an important factor in these games.
What would you say normally, Bobby? What is it, like 6 of 11, 4 of 11, 7 of 11? What sort of ratio are we talking about? Happy players versus unhappy players?
I would say that confidence is more like 8.5 out of 10
wow,
Okay.
that half.
in terms of importance.
That half is really interesting.
That really changes it. By the way, Perry in Portland hit us up. He is a Timbers fan, RCTID. He says, Friedel's the third coach to be let go this year, but his question is, when are the people who hired the coaches going to start being held to a higher standard? This reminds me of a note that I made last week, which was basically a quote by every single GM that came on this show, or president, or anybody who was talking publicly about these things, which is essentially, quote, we have a better team than the results. That's been the rallying cry. Well, that rallying cry is all well and good in the short term. In the long term, the test is coming. Can you actually string together results? Can you look like you made progress? Can you hire the right guy if you're given that opportunity? Can you in the summer help your team? So we're about to find out with these three teams and perhaps more from around Major League Soccer. Of course, Rapids still looking for that first win. We have an amazing piece of mail for Thursday from Mike Molinaro, I think? Molino?
Yeah, not piece, 3 pieces. He sent about 3
Yeah.
emails in 30 minutes. He was really going through something with the Rapids.
There was a dark place for him. Dark place.
We are here for you, Mike.
We were sort of here for Atlanta United fans. Is that how you would describe that? I think we didn't dance on their like early grave.
It was fun to watch them have just a little bit of a down. Like this is, I think it was a Mark Fishkin line saying that like Atlanta soccer fans need a little bit of scar tissue, and I think March gave them just a little bit.
Yeah, they're healing now, though. Pity Martinez got his goal. Finally, he says it doesn't matter. He plays for River Plate previously, and all the pressure there amounts to nothing in our terms. So he's good to go. Got his goal. 4 straight shutouts for them. 5 shutouts in 6. Michael Parker said before this win against Orlando in a non-rivalry match, because Orlando have yet to beat
Win
them.
a game, Lions.
He said they're making progress. It's starting to come together. It's clicking. I mean, the defensive side is clicking. I would say, to go back to your point, Bobby, about them last year, the attacking side is not yet clicking. But hey, results, man. They needed results. They needed something. They got it here. Good move forward.
It was a weird game for Atlanta United because on one side, I thought the attack looked more dangerous. They looked more threatening when they were on the ball, and a huge part of that comes to what Tito Villalba offers to the attack. But on the flip side, it might have actually been the worst overall game, the worst overall game that they played in the last 2 months, because they weren't playing well, right? They lost to Dallas. It wasn't beautiful against Colorado, but there was also an element to those games where Atlanta didn't look like they were going to win, but it also didn't look like they were going to lose. They had so much of the ball, that they counter-pressed so well. They had everything kind of buttoned up in this game plan that they also looked like they were mostly in control, even when it wasn't fun. Well, the game against Orlando was actually a flip of that, I thought. It was open, it was fun, but they looked in less control than they have all year, and I don't know how to make sense of those two things. So I think if you're an Atlanta fan, I think if you look at Atlanta and them reaching their max potential, you need Villalba and the direct nature that he offers, but there's also something to Barco's possession ability that might have been more to what Frank de Boer envisions from this team.
I mean, I said it when Barco left, is that this was it's a glass half full take, which is basically this was the opportunity that Frank de Boer needed to at least see what he had in Tito. Because he had played him, but he hadn't produced, so now the onus is on Tito. You're in the lineup. There's no replacement for you unless you're counting Justin Miram as that right now, which he's got to learn the system and figure things out and settle. So now's the time for Tito Villalba.
How do we square this result with their midweek result against Toronto FC, which I thought was a really, really good result? Villalba had, the opening goal in that one as well? I mean, I think maybe what we saw against Orlando City was a little bit of fatigue. Mm-hmm. And I think still just a little bit of lack of clarity in terms of how we transition from possession to penetration. They don't have a consistent answer to that so far. And if you look at the goal, it came off a Brad Guzan goal kick that one of the Orlando City defenders just
He just missed
on.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he missed it.
But those movements around the final third where they need to penetrate, those are things that I think will get learned and drilled in. And one of the issues for me would be with De Boer is why is it not closer over the time he's had? But if they can get results, and then that starts to click as you go through the summer, I don't think Villalba and Gressel are two pieces in that attack for the way he wants his teams to play. Because I think they're both direct. And it's not a knock on the quality of Tito Villalba. Like his first touch, his speed, his soccer IQ is all high. He just wants to get the ball and go straight at goal. And under Tata, it worked because it was perfect. And it was just another option outside of what Joseph and Miggy were doing. I don't know that fits here. So over these next month and a half, if you don't have Barco and potentially if he does well with Argentina, you don't have him in the future. How does that now pan out with the way Frank de Boer is saying to this team and to the
Wait, are we sure that Barco's that important? He had good games against the Revs.
But you
and
need
against
possession.
Sporting Kansas
But he
City.
wants possession. He wants players that want to link up. He wants players that don't.
He still doesn't turn possession into penetration.
That might
That's
be
the
true,
thing.
but that's where
what holds him
PT's
back.
supposed to come through. And I also think as their movements, they don't really play with triangles very often. Like they don't have a ton of passing options when they're in final thirds to create.
What?
What?
Did you just say they don't have a ton of triangles and passing options?
They don't have options when they get in the final third. When Barco gets the ball on the left side of the 18, he's got Breck making a run outside of him, and that's it.
They got options like my girl Danny's got fire, bro.
Whoa.
They got so many options. Their problem is
about that, or?
the problem is
I mean, it's a spoiler for David. David still hasn't seen
hasn't
the
seen it
episode.
at all.
Oh, that's what that was? Dude, come.
The other question I have here is what's in the
Are
seats?
you kidding me? You know I didn't watch the episode yet.
you didn't know
Come
that
on,
Daenerys had
she's
fire.
got a dragon. Like,
You didn't know that
obviously she has
Daenerys.
fire.
There's
gonna
no
use that.
spoiler in that. But I just want to say they have options. It's the choice that they make within those options that they always
No,
go
I
for the
still
safe
disagree
one.
with you.
Yeah.
I still disagree
I'm
with you.
Team Gasman here.
So-
Like they have options building through midfield. Once they get into the final third,
It's
they
just the
don't.
fullback
Yeah.
overlapping.
And honestly, I thought Barco was starting to at least figure out, hey, if I get turned here and I actually go to goal a little bit, options come for me. Whether it's just pinging a shot or trying to find Joseph's feet, it's not the most efficient, but that works more oftentimes than not in MLS. I got cut off there by the spoiler. What is in the seats? And by the seats, I mean the substitutes bench on both sides at Mercedes-Benz. Because Dom Dwyer bricked the sitter, got taken off, and then he basically copy and pasted Pity Martinez's fit from a couple weeks ago straight in, kicking the back of the seats. This was a game
Maybe he saw it, knew you wouldn't get hurt because PD didn't get hurt. It was
Yeah.
like, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it here.
get a little headlines,
These things
get
are
some
cushions.
mentions. Professional communication, man. Professional communication. Congratulations to Atlanta. They're moving along. They're winning some games. I almost said
I
Orlando.
think
That
honestly,
was a little
congratulations
slip.
to Orlando as well. It was this was a pretty good performance from them without Nani. And I was saying
A
before
great
the show-
performance. It was a great performance. Without
It was
winning,
pretty good.
Hey, but you know
It
what
was
you
pretty
said?
good.
You said Josue Colman played
That's
well.
right. That's why I said before. Like it shocked me when Josue Colman came on for the last 20 minutes or something. I was like, oh, this isn't going to work out so great for Orlando City. But he was battling. He seemed to have some awareness on both sides of the ball, some toughness getting on the ball in the spots where you want that from a number 10. I have my fingers crossed for him and for Orlando City. Like they need one of another of the guys that they laid out a lot of
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
resources on to come good.
Need a seven-figure bet to come off.
Because unlike Atlanta United, they are not the Manchester City of MLS.
What are the Dynamo? What are the Houston Dynamo? I don't want any more EPL comparisons, but we asked ourselves whether
But
they
there's
were
a
in
really easy one.
Oh yeah, what's the one you're gonna make?
The Liverpool.
Oh, yeah, they had the little press going.
I
They had the dynamic
the
attackers.
Necaxa.
Necaxa?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Necaxa
They're the Shakhtar Donetsk.
kind of fell down.
They're
No.
not.
Shakhtar Houston out of 100 times. How many times is?
Oh my god.
Okay, I won't go there. We asked whether the Dynamo were for real. They played a ton of home games. They went to Seattle. They lost 1-0. Christian Roldan says he now has the green light to hit it from anywhere on the field. I think he's earned that green light. But the Dynamo are in our winners column here. How's that happen, even in a loss?
The question about the Dynamo was they had the best points per game in the league coming into this weekend. The thing is, they had played 7 of 9 at home, most of them against not very good teams. This was really the first big test that they had, and they lost. But was this not the most uncomfortable that the Seattle Sounders have looked since Raul Ruiz-Diaz arrived into the team?
Yeah.
That's a tongue twister for you. Say Raul Ruiz-Diaz fast 5 times.
But they clearly came out and they were going to play higher up the field and they were going to attack and play confident. And they gave up an early goal and nothing changed, which is impressive for a young team and for a team that at times we've said, oh, they'll be at their best when they sit back and counter. And they came out and played confident. They controlled possession on the road, a tough place to play for any team in MLS. And they looked like the better team throughout this game.
How much of it is the Dynamo's game plan, which I think was good and they executed on, and missing Gustav Svensson, which I don't think anybody's talked about enough. Jordy Delem is a fine player, but that between I saw the segment you did on Matchday Central, and I didn't see it in the game because I'm not tactically astute, such as you, Bobby. I'm blowing you up here.
Hey, thanks.
But yeah, it wasn't the same.
Yeah, but also, I'm sorry, Darwin Sarin was starting. Maynard Figueroa is what, 47, 57? Like, you can't go and say Seattle was missing one starter because Ruiz-Diaz, I guess they were missing 2 because Chad Marshall's out as well. But Ruiz-Diaz was back. Rodriguez goes out injured early. But if you're going to say Jordy Delem's in and therefore
I'm not saying he ruined it for him. I'm just saying it's a change, and that was the exact part of the field where it felt like the Dynamo were trying to take advantage.
DG.
No?
DG.
DG is a new thing? I haven't ever heard that
I'm
before.
really worried.
I don't know if I like that.
Now I know that he can spoil it.
Not all replacements are the same. If you're going to try and play out from the back, you have to have a center back that can pass and a defensive midfielder that can take the ball under pressure. Ramon Torres can do a lot of things well. Passing through pressure, not one of them. Jordy Delem, fine player. Taking the ball under pressure is not one of them. Not only that, to point out the larger picture for the Sounders, Jordy Delem might be able to deal with it, but the problem is he's always on an island. Gustav Svensson is always on an island, and it wasn't a problem when you had Ozzy Alonso, because Ozzy Alonso was maybe the best player in league history at bypassing a player with the dribble in his own half. He does a little shoulder dip, see you later, I'm going the other way. They don't have that guy. Other players are always on islands. If you have Gustav Svensson, who is very comfortable on the ball, maybe they get away with it. There aren't many players in the league who can offer that. So for them to lose Svensson just magnified the problem that they already had. And if I'm any team in this league, you have to press the Sounders right now. You have to go for them and make them figure out coordinated movements between their center midfielders.
Didn't realize you were a big war guy.
What?
I mean, I don't know how to explain this to you, but it's literally my name.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good. I didn't think about that because you should never think about that. It doesn't have any relevance in this conversation. But I liked it all the same, Bobby. We're on to losers, and I mocked your Zlatan takes for a long time, actively and openly, and enjoyed doing it. I think maybe I'm done mocking them. That's 3 straight losses for the Galaxy. They lose to NYCFC. It was, quote, an easy game for NYCFC.
What's the date?
This is like
What's
the
date?
subtitle.
It's May 13th. So May 30th, Wiebe's going to headline the
Be
show.
right back on.
LA Galaxy are the #1 team in
Hey.
league history.
You understand clicks, don't you? We're on Pluto TV now. We exist, so we have to bring it up. But like he looks
in the Galaxy.
He looks static. The Galaxy looks static, not because of it, but like by product of it. I think the over-reliance is real.
Wait,
and he looks old
hold on a
because he
second.
is old.
Hold on a second. The guy who picked David Accam for MVP and the Colorado Rapids to make the playoffs wants to take a victory lap. Go ahead, Bobby.
Well, it's okay. Chris Coody's going to play
Andrew
left back for
Wiebe
the U.S. at the World Cup this summer.
I'm trying to get you guys to stop talking. That's what that hand motion is.
temporarily agrees with you.
Who was your MVP pick last year? Exactly.
I think it was Joseph.
No, come on.
It probably was because we all picked Joseph except Bobby.
No, come on. First of all, Joseph shouldn't have been MVP. It should have been Miguel Marone. Everybody knows that. But if you picked Joseph, congratulations. Give yourself a pat on the back for getting Joseph Martinez correct. I just want to point out.
So we talked about professional communication. That was Bobby's, let's call it Caleb Porter moment right there. He was just shifting the narrative on us. He was like, yeah, I might have said David Accam, but this, that, and the other. Where you going now?
Please. Continue,
yeah,
please.
the Galaxy,
Bobby.
3 straight losses. They look over reliant on Zlatan, and the rest of the team. I expect more from Sebastian Lletget, like in those combination moments, in that moment on the turn, delivering the final ball, kind of like dictating timing and pace of possession, and then flipping it on for the attack. Joe Corona. I expect more
but
there.
If we're doing the Bobby War thing, right? Wins above replacement, blah, blah, blah. Carrasco to Jonah Dos Santos is supposed to be the second best player on this team, right? And
he had been before these 3 games, I thought.
Right, well, he was
injured.
So that's what I'm saying in terms of not just replacements, but that role. He's the one who runs the midfield, and he's the one who covers the most ground and connects the team. And so Zlatan doesn't do anything to help those. Why am I on the pro Zlatan side here? But Jonah's a big loss that you can't ignore. I don't know how I ended up on this side of the
I would agree with you.
That
I would
side
agree
of the
with you,
table,
but they didn't look worse without Jonathan Dos Santos. They just look the same. I mean, this is the way they've looked.
No, they looked worse. They looked worse. What?
This is the way they've looked for 10.5 of the 12 games they've played this year.
10.5.
And I would count like the other 15 last year.
What made them look worse in your mind, Doyle?
Their defensive structure was a mess, especially in the first half. They tried to play a 3-5-2, and both of their young wingbacks kept getting caught up. And I thought, honestly, Dome Tarrant and NYCFC did a really nice job of overloading the wings. And that's what the 3-4-3 that they're playing now gives them the chance to do. They push the left wing back up, and then whoever the left winger is goes on that side. And then Heber is so mobile that suddenly you have three guys on that one side. It creates a constant 3-on-2, and then they swing the team out, the defense out, and then they are able to suck them out of the central zone and then bring it back in, either through like a reversed ball on the run combination or just playing it back to one of their central midfielders. It was Ring and Rocha in this one. It's not the most complex stuff in the world, but it's designed to exploit teams that don't move well as a unit. And that's exactly what they did in this one. And then in the second half, the Galaxy went back to kind of a 4-2-3-1. It didn't get much better, and in part that was because NYCFC stayed so compact that none of those LA midfielders were able to get on the ball between the lines. And this goes to the Zlatan lack of movement.
Oh,
because Zlatan,
you picked Sebastian Jovinko as your 2018 MVP.
Nice. I knew
Get
you were
out
doing
of here!
that.
Get out of here, Doyle! Get out of here!
I picked Joseph for Golden Boot. Whatever. As if Jovinko's a worse pick than David Accam, by the way.
One team made the playoffs, the other didn't.
That's a fair point.
Boom.
It's a
one got
idiotic
traded for $100,000 a game. The other one got sold for millions.
But by the way, Sebastian Jovinko hasn't done statistically, box score wise, very much in the last 10 games.
Also, his Saudi Arabia MVP pick is now going down.
Yeah,
the drain
that's
as well.
horrible. Yeah, didn't work out for you.
But Zlatan's lack of movement up top, I think, does compact that part of the game, which is why that part of the field, which is why the first 2 months of the season, all LA could do was just get around the wings and cross.
Well, when you talk about Heber, it feels to me like Zlatan right now is kind of the polar opposite. Is it in terms of movement? Heber is like pulling defenders out of position, making all these runs that may or might not pan out for himself, but pan out for others. I just think it's impressive that NYCFC have lost just one game this year. They basically we're talking about Jose Coleman. They basically haven't played Jesus Medina, who's a multi-million-dollar transfer for them and was really good, and they were rumored to be selling him after Patrick Vieira got the best of him. Alexander Matrita is coming off the bench. Doyle, you told us before this happened you think NYCFC's success is sustainable, and Bobby shook his head no.
I do not. Matt, why don't you give your pitch for why NYCFC is good at the moment?
Basically what they did against the Galaxy, right? They create those overloads because Heber can move so well, and they have in Maxi Morales a really heady number 10. In Tajiri Shrade, they have a second goal-scoring threat coming in off the wing. And then they have two wingbacks who get up and down. They just make super linear runs, whether it's Margarita or Sweat on the left side, and it's always Tinnerholm on the right side. And those are the guys who go forward. Earlier in the season, you were seeing Alex Ring getting forward a lot. You were seeing Ebenezer Afori asked to do a lot of stuff that he's not really capable of doing. Well, now those two guys are more stationary. So you have those two defensive midfielders back almost all the time, which limits your exposure. And oh, by the way, they play with a back five, not a back four. So they also almost always have three central defenders back, which limits their exposure. So they win more balls in central midfield, and they are less exposed to counterattacks.
Yeah. The 3-5-2, 5-3-2 defensively has definitely helped their defensive shape. And you're right about the wingbacks. They arrive late after they clog the middle with all the attackers, really 5 or 6 attackers up the middle.
Yep.
Tinnerholm and the left wingback arrive late. They are excellent at clipping balls into them, on the run at the angle that actually gets them beyond the opposition defender. It's not in front of them.
Single touch.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it's like it's a routine they do over and over. But other than that, you mentioned how Heber stretches the field and Maxi Morales and Tajori Shradi get the ball underneath. But then what? You're exactly right. They get that ball, but what's the idea after that? How do I turn that moment into goals? And I think the LAFC conversation early on is the perfect example, the perfect bar for this. Because when those dudes get the ball, when Marc-Anthony Kaye and Carlos Vela get the ball in between the lines, you can see the checklist in their brain. Is Diego Rossi making the run that I can play him in between? Can I connect with Christian Ramirez? Can I play the other player in between the lines? It's a checklist that they go through. And this comes to my idea that creativity in soccer is a myth. You should have an answer for what you do on the ball at all times. If you're trying to, quote unquote, be creative in 2019, you're not winning trophies. And to me, when NYCFC get the ball in these spots, it's, okay, Max Morales, you're a talented player, create, but I just don't see it working. I see that they have one reliable, rehearsed pattern, which is great, to the outside backs advancing on. But after that, what ideas do they have? It's mostly talented players creating plays, which you guys know I just do not trust over the long haul.
One reliable pattern is more than I think a lot of MLS teams. And then you add the fact that NYCFC have more talent than a lot of MLS teams. I think
it's helpful.
Yeah,
it's helpful.
This is sustainable.
Minnesota United, I'm going to put them down as a loser. They are 2-4-3 in their past 9 games. They've scored just twice in their past 4 games. They lost at the Fire. And, that 9-game stretch came after this quote from Adrian Heath.
Well, I've said this before, and I don't wish this to be disrespect to anybody, but we've got a team now that's comparable with a lot of teams. We haven't had that in the past. Suddenly people think, well, he knows what he's doing. Well, I've always known what I was doing, but when you go on the field and the opposition's got a better team than you 9 times out of 10, it normally comes through. Now we've got a team that can compete.
So I don't want to say that Adrian Heath doesn't know what he's doing, but I definitely am going to say that Minnesota have not figured out how to get Angelo Rodriguez and Darwin Quintero to do what both of them do well together. Defensively, I have a lot less questions about this team than I have had in the past. But now it's going back to the other side, which is you fix that, which was probably job one. Like, even if you were going to sacrifice some goals in the short term, if you could fix that back line, it was your only path forward to probably the playoffs and any relevance in the playoffs. Well, they've done that. I don't want to dunk on Adrian Heath there. I know that you play that one, schadenfreude and all, after every single L by Minnesota and the Loons.
Not schadenfreude. Like, the coach said what he said. He went out and he kind of ripped his former players, and he said, now we have a team that can compete.
Actually, some of his current players, too.
And some of his current players, too.
Yeah.
Well, just his former players.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought it was a weird quote to give at that time of the season. It's one that you have to, that wasn't a nothing quote. He was making a point. And I said at the time, he was spiking the ball at his own 30-yard line. And he kind of, after 9 games, 2 months since he gave that quote, it looks like it.
How do you get Darwin and Angelo to work together? We got to be quick about this because we have a mailbag that I love, but that's the big question right now.
I don't have an answer, but I can identify the problem that might lead to the answer, in that Angelo Rodriguez does really one thing in attack. He finds the center backs, he puts their back into them, and he posts them up. He stretches the field for them, but it creates a gap. He's not looking to get the ball into his feet and play with somebody else. He's saying, put the ball into my chest, put the ball into my head, and join me, but I'm not sure that's the way Darwin Quintero wants to attack. I'm not sure that's the way Miguel Ibarra wants to attack. So Angelo offers something very unique and something very good if you use him right. I'm just not sure it works at the other attackers around him.
No, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago with Molino. It's like, if he can get healthy and give you something, then maybe they can play off each other a little more and Rodriguez can find space. But Darwin wants to be the only guy in his area that he wants space to operate, and Angelo needs people to play off him really close to operate. And it seems like their 2 best skill sets don't exactly overlap right now.
3 of the next 4 at home for Minnesota.
And they need to start winning at home.
Yeah.
They've gotten results. They have not really won enough games, at least when you look at the playoffs and what it takes to get there, especially for Minnesota. It's going to take winning at Allianz Field. Our final loser for me is Sporting Kansas City. This thing might be, I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe it is. They haven't won since March 30th. That was the shellacking against Montreal. I wrote here, is this thing spiraling away? They had 3 field players on the bench. those injury timelines are staggered. So you'll get Matt Beasler back in a couple weeks probably. Graham Zusi seemed to be being rested.
An oblique.
Roger Espinoza is farther away.
What is an oblique?
It's just it's an ab.
Yeah.
Abdominals.
Oh, okay.
Right.
It's hidden.
I don't have them either. So
I was going to say it's hidden under there somewhere.
I remind you, get your submissions into at extra time into the hot take hotline. What was Matt Doyle doing on a Monday afternoon when he was 29 years old?
Not exercising.
Not side planks. Definitely not side planks here. Benny Feilhaber, when he was traded to Kansas City, said, "This was good. I wanted to be on a contender." Well, in theory, this was a team that we said clear contender. I mean, we mentioned earlier in the show, possibly one of the best teams in the league. This for a team that's second to bottom in the West. Of course, the Rapids are the bottom on 2 points, so doesn't get any lower than that right now. What are they in practice, Sporting Kansas City?
Man, I'm still walking.
Injured? Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know about you guys. I'm still walking down that high hill in Toronto from last year, but I still think Sporting Kansas City will be okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I mean, the names you said, if those few get back healthy over the next 2-3 weeks, you put together a solid structure. It's not, I think week one I said this could be
It won't
the
be
best
2 or 3
possession
weeks. You'll get
team in
Beasler back maybe.
And Zusi.
Okay.
What about Fontas?
But at this point,
Yeah,
Fontas
okay,
as well.
fine.
Okay.
So that's 3 starters on your back line. Name an MLS team that could survive.
Jimmy Madronda is back in training. He could play left back if you wanted something different. Maybe some pace.
God, Jimmy Madronda's back.
The thing is, what we've
Just saying.
learned through 2.5 months is that if any of the pieces are less than 100%, the whole thing seems to fall apart. Like when they're all there and they're all clicking and they're all healthy and they're all fresh, they do what they did against Toluca, which is still blows my mind to watch an MLS team drub any Mexican team
in
like
their
that.
first competitive matches of the year.
They were getting Olays in one of the best stadiums, best fan bases in Liga MX. The MLS team was getting Olays. That was awesome. We know they can do that when they're 100% healthy. If they're anything but 100% healthy, it looks like the whole thing falls apart.
TBD for Sporting Kansas City. I mean, that training staff has got to be working overtime, bring in some extra bodies because they are lacking in numbers right now. Quickly from around the league, we did not put the Philadelphia Union in our winners. They are obviously winners. They go to Toronto, take them down 7-1-1 in their last 9. Jamiro Montero looks like a great signing. Looks like really smart business from Ernst Tanner to keep him as well. Maybe they can seal him long term. Vancouver on Friday night on TSN knocked off the Timbers 1-0. Portland still winners of 3 of 4, but the Vancouver Whitecaps seem to be trending in the right direction. Not one of the bad teams, a team with ideas, maybe not executing all the time on those ideas. But before we make a substitution, the Tag Heuer class for trash move.
Preparing the
We're
board.
going to bring in Ben Bear here for.
I'll be the fourth preparing the board.
For Bobby. Bobby, Chicago Fire, you told me when I asked you what you wanted to talk about in this show that you wanted to talk about the Chicago Fire. This is your tactics moment. Hit us up.
The Fire are doing some cool things, and it's not entirely news because Veljko Paunovic often tries new things, but he often tries new things as a survival mechanism, a one-off against a certain opponent that he doesn't think he can match up with. This one feels like it's going to stick. They got Francisco Calvo. They have inserted him to a left center back position, and when they defend in a 5-3-2. It's Kappelhoff, Schweinsteiger, and Calvo as the 3 center backs. Corrales has been on the left, and the first game it was Frankowski at right wing back. The second game it was Alexander Katai. When they win the ball, they go into a 4-2-3-1 with whoever was on the right side, Katai or Frankowski, going up to a winger position and Kappelhoff going to right back. You don't often see that. We often talk about how formations switch from one to the other, and with Berhalter playing the 4-3-3, 3-4-3 hybrid, we don't often see this with a center back going wide and a wing back going to winger. So I would say it's the most interesting tactical thing going on in MLS right now.
Okay, it is time for our substitution. Ben Bear, please come to the fourth official here and enter onto the
Bobby
extra
has to
time
exit
set.
before Ben enters, otherwise there's an
AT&T
illegal
MLS
amount of
Studios.
players on the field.
Oh, quickly, off. He must be off. Yes.
Yes. Who takes the captain's armband?
Did we? Bobby did not have the captain's armband.
Yeah,
No.
Bobby
No
Bobby at
chance.
home sews his own
No.
captain's armband.
Probably.
And then
Wears
comes
it
in and
around the
wears
I
apartment?
definitely have it, for sure.
Yeah.
Ben, hey, just make sure you track the runner on the back post.
Okay. Bring him on. Bring him on.
Also, Ben, no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers, Ben.
Ben Bear has been.
Bobby already
I was
tested it.
listening to that segment. That was a fun moment.
Yeah.
Oh, when Bobby ruined the biggest moment.
Bobby,
Gotcha.
there wasn't
Bobby
any
forgot his
spoilers in what
computer?
he says. I'm gonna go with what Bobby. There wasn't any spoilers.
So I'm gonna guess when you were 29. By the way, on Monday afternoon, you were watching reruns of Dallas.
Dallas?
Yeah.
The FC Dallas?
No, like the
Like
TV
the soap
show.
opera
Yeah.
80s show.
I've actually never I've actually never
guess. Good try.
watched an episode of Dallas.
You can see if you're watching on
I was
YouTube.
100% playing Final Fantasy 11
ruined this.
or watching soccer.
Yeah, those were the two
100%.
things. Those are the two obvious guesses. Anyone from Reddit would have known that.
Yes.
Absolutely would have known that. I like how you've had to adjust your microphone here.
Yeah,
A little
I
known-
don't know
little
how to
known-
do this part.
Little
I
known
just did
fact
this
about
part.
Bobby
we're not
Warshaw
gonna-
is
not
that
gonna
he
do
has
it.
the longest torso in MLS. He's very torso heavy.
He's the Taylor Swift of VTR.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas Kalen Carr's very long legs, very spindly in that way. Bobby Warshaw extremely torso heavy. Let's get to the mailbag. 401-206-0MLS. Extra time at MLSsoccer.com. Ben Bear's been beating down the door of the manager. That would be me.
Yeah, the manager just not giving me opportunities.
He
Hey,
doesn't
you know,
believe in young American talent.
Doesn't believe in at
He
all.
brings in foreign DPs
Although
first, and then that's
I
what
do
he
know
does.
what I was doing when I was 29 because that was like
Yesterday?
2 months ago.
Okay.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm just turned 30, so yeah.
Not appearing on extra time.
Congratulations over there.
Ben's coming in with a bang, guys. This is good
Ben
content.
Bear's the Jonathan Lewis of ETR. Eric Erickson wants to shout out Kalen, said all of those involved producing the movement. Thanks. The episodes are great each year. Keep up the great work. Kalen's not here, but we're putting it into the universe.
Can I just give a little something on this? There are people out there still who say that there's no such thing as American or Canadian soccer culture. Like the movement, every single episode disproves that. Every single episode, Kalen does such a good job of kicking over stones and going to places where, maybe people aren't completely aware of and finding these stories to tell. It's really wonderful. Take the time to watch it and enjoy it. It's really, really good.
Got to give the props also to Pablo Maurer, and I know Kalen would do the same.
absolutely.
A guy who has his fingers on the pulse of soccer in a lot of places, but DC in particular. He is absolutely killing it there for the Athletic. He was a consultant, I think, on this one. They used a lot of his photography. He had a lot of the connections that they used. But Chocolate City, the movement, go watch it on YouTube or MLSsoccer.com or, hey, Pluto TV as well. That's where it's at.
So someone wanted us to do a DP game where we should guess the DP. We could do it by me giving you a profile of someone, or we could describe their biography, their
Kennedy,
past, blah, blah, blah.
Igbo Ananike.
That's a good one.
Good
so
try. Actually,
you would need to have...
So we're going to do
No,
it.
like, that's the answer for any question.
Is the
microphone,
person's
Ben.
name
Speaking of the microphone.
DP? Is the person's initials DP? Who came up with the DP game?
I don't know. I don't know.
So for all of you out there, feel free to send in your own versions of this, and I will read them on this show. Wiebe did about 6 seconds of work for this one. I did a sizable amount, so Wiebe will go first.
Well, I just wanted to add,
Normally,
I have one. I have hints for you. Before
Yeah.
we do it, just guess a random DP. Yours is
Kennedy Igbo
is
Ananike.
not Kennedy Igboanike.
So wait,
You're just guessing a random DP and seeing if you get it right.
Based on nothing.
Based on nothing.
Blazing Kufo.
No.
Can I have another guess?
No.
Milton Corralio.
No, but those are all good guesses. So here's your first hint.
What is happening
This
right now?
DP has 4 caps for Argentina. The club that they played for before
Maxi
coming
Morales?
to Major League Soccer
No, it's not.
was Boca Juniors. They were the
Scoloto?
Nope. They were the 2010 Argentine Footballer of the Year,
No.
an award that they shared with Lionel Messi. They played 2 seasons in Major League Soccer. One was curtailed. 40 games,
God.
36 starts, 8 goals, 4 assists.
Oh, no, don't have it.
You were on a good... actually, I can't tell you that one because then that would give it away. It is a noted animal lover, this designated player. And that may have hurried along their exit from Major League Soccer. Javier Morales was a decent guess. I'll throw that one out there.
Fabian Espindal.
Ooh, we're on the right track here. A little bit later on, 2015.
Burrito Martinez?
Yes, my final hint was it was a food nickname. Burrito Martinez is the name of that one. You had one as well? Yeah, that's a good one.
No, I had like a longer thing because we'll do more. I was hoping fans would get to send some in. There are a limited number of DPs, so I wasn't going to steal one. But Wiebe then jumped all over.
Come on, it's a fun game
with his ball.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Which MLS team has the most DPs in their history?
So it would,
as a club, the number of players.
So probably a lot of turnover.
Like
I'm going to guess
Chicago.
I'm going to guess the Seattle Sounders.
Who are you going to guess?
Toronto.
So 2 of the people at this table are correct. There are 3 teams tied with 14 total. Doyle was not correct.
Oh,
Seattle and Chicago are in there.
Nice.
Do you want one more guess at the
call
third
back
one?
to Kennedy. Call back.
Yeah, call back to Kennedy.
But I should have known when you went Blazing Kufo.
Federico.
that was my guess.
Federico
Pupo.
I always
Indeed.
go
I
with
thought about
Blaze.
going with him.
He was not good.
So do you want me to tell you the third one, and then you guys can guess who the first DPs for all 3 of
The
these
third
clubs
one
are?
is the LA Galaxy.
No.
The road, not the
I'll give you a
Third
clue. It's
one.
another team that has taken other teams in
New
MLS
England.
as DPs. similar to Chicago
New
has
England?
done.
Taking
No.
other teams in MLS's designated
Vancouver?
players. The
No,
the
Vancouver
Barry
is very
Robson
close.
era?
Yeah, Vancouver is very close. Vancouver's 13.
Would it be Portland Timbers, like
No.
with the Arutis coming over?
It is FC Dallas.
Oh!
So it was in my head. I didn't have
okay.
the courage to say
So
it.
who was the first DP in FC Dallas history?
Danielson.
Yep.
Nice.
Who was the second?
Oh.
Davi
Yep.
Ferreira. Yeah.
Only DP who now has a starting. I don't know if that's
Hey,
true. I
he
just
got a
made
goal.
that up.
His son got a goal this weekend.
Give me Chicago and then give me Seattle.
Well, Chicago's
By the way,
Blanco.
has any
Freddie
teenager
Lundberg for Seattle. Freddie
has any
Lundberg.
teenager ever scored
That's right?
double-digit
Okay.
goals in MLS?
I don't think so.
Did Kubo? Was Kubo a teenager?
No, he wasn't a
He was
teenager.
older.
Yeah, he was like 21.
Yeah. Like in Landon
Laren was
had
in that same
seven,
area.
seven
Yeah.
or eight.
Yeah, Laren
And
is
it-
probably 20.
We'll do that research
that.
and get back to you.
Jesus Ferreira's now got what, 4 or 5 on the year?
He's got a good chance.
Give me
Get those reps.
By the way, two of my favorite things was that Chicago's second DP was Freddie Lundberg, who was Seattle's first.
Nice.
And
Oh, yeah, I
then
forgot about that.
Vancouver was second with 13. Who was their first two?
well,
And
Barry Robson.
season.
Georgiou and
Rob-
Hasley?
Hasley.
Wow.
Who Eric Hasley also then went and played for FC Dallas.
Georgiou was probably the worst designated player signing in MLS.
Mustafa Georgiou.
Different era of
Let's
DPs.
go.
Let's not judge Mustafa Georgiou.
No, we can though, because he wasn't
They
good.
literally signed a random guy from the Belgian second division.
What else we
that's,
got here?
That's what I'm into. Trevor wants us to talk about Montreal more. Love when you talk impact, but not here to complain that I need more IMFC on the pod. Just want to drop some friendly Canadian knowledge. You know how we're talking to Americans when they call it Montreal. Don't overthink it. It's pronounced Montreal.
All right, practice here. Montreal.
It feels worse when I say it that way.
It's also the top 5 cities of all time for me. Just
Whoa.
Panderer.
Yeah.
Matt Doyle's handbook right there.
I mean,
Montreal.
do we really want to talk about them after what happened on Saturday?
No,
Yeah,
we
that
actually
was the
don't.
thing.
Well, I mean, they did have a huge win on Wednesday against the Red Bulls team that was their entire starters. I'm still not 100% sure on that PK. I don't think we talked about that enough, maybe, about the Montreal PK they won against the Red Bulls. But it seems to be like they just can win on the road and they can't do anything at home. That's what we've seen so
Boom.
far.
In Montreal,
Yeah,
they struggle.
Caleb Porter, we've got. And yeah, good, well done.
Yeah, thanks.
Good usage there. Caleb Porter. We have to read this email.
Okay.
He's the expected goals guru here. Has been Bear. So
Andy says, how warm is Caleb Porter's seat in Columbus? They've lost 6 of their last 7 and have done nothing but regress since he took the job given his failures at youth U.S. teams and his mostly average seasons at Portland. Questionable. Who can possibly think he has the chops to take this team anywhere but off a cliff? He seems to be the type of coach who can only win when he has superior talent. Cheers,
All right.
Andy.
One, cool the jet.
I like how Andy finished this though with cheers.
Yeah.
Just
Cheers,
rip
lad.
mode. Rip. Cheers, Andy.
Cool. Yeah. Again, he seemed to have on and off seasons with Portland, but when he was on 2015, 2017, when they came in first place in the West with a very heavily injured squad for a lot of that season, those are 2 good seasons.
Can I read
Give him some time, but
Here's the quote.
Yeah, read the quote.
Do you know our expected goals? The statistics, right? Well, I know our expected goals statistics. We're in good spots. We're in good spots to score. I had the GM in DC, that's Dave Casper, tell me that based on expected goals, we should be 3rd in the league after that game. Caleb Porter is just crushing it at the mic recently. So I had been...
Dave Casper's like, why am I
Yeah,
getting
Dave was like,
sucked
hold
in?
on, man. That was an aside. That was an aside. So I had you do some research here, Ben. Give it to us quickly. What is the wins, losses, and expected goal battle?
The wins and losses in individual games is 8-5, 8 wins, 5 losses. That's a completely meaningless statistic, though. That doesn't matter at all when you're talking about a team over the course of an entire season. It's a terrible stat.
They have a negative goal differential,
and also
on expected
that could be
goals,
like
which Doyle was talking up
1.46
earlier.
versus 1.45. Like that doesn't matter. Like that shouldn't matter.
Okay.
Over the course of the entire season, which is what you kind of should be looking at, they should feel a little hard done by. That's fair because they have a -6 goal differential. Their expected goals would expect them to be in the -1 range. So they should be a little better. But when you're taking all that into account, they've still been a very average team. A very average team in the 12 to 15, right on the playoff borderline kind of range. So 3rd in the East, no. Or 3rd in the league, no. That's just completely false.
16.29 expected goals this year. They have 12 actual goals, so about 4 goals different there for them.
That's the majority of their expected goal differential, the difference in that.
Their expected goals per game is 1.25. Real Salt Lake, FC Cincinnati, Montreal Impact, Vancouver Whitecaps is the only teams below them, and it's pretty close there, but like the spread on expected goals isn't massive. So 1.25, I mean, the best in the league is LAFC, and that's 2.4, and That's far and away from a lot of people. Now, Sporting Kansas City are 2.13 right behind. You do have to wonder, like that game against Montreal, how many expected goals did they pull out of that one?
Or the 19 they should have scored against
They
New
scored,
England.
so Sporting Kansas City is right there with Columbus where their difference is like 4 or 5. I mean, they should have scored, according to expected goals, like 3 goals. 3 goals in that game, and they scored 7. So that's where you look at that and you say, that's probably the whole difference right there.
Mailbag 401-206-0MLS. Extra time at MLSsoccer.com. We have a lot of good stuff that we'll push over to Thursday. Zach from Lawrence, Kansas on RSL. Doug in Everett, Washington with just some absolute fire on Zlatan that I'm absolutely here for. And, of course, our guy in Colorado.
He questions Wiebe's fatherhood.
Yeah. Well, he didn't. My fatherhood is not questioned.
Fathering.
Yes, that part of it.
His tactic.
The nurture part, not the nature. The nature's
Fair.
been handled.
Fair.
Are we supposed to do a trash bag thing as well?
God, we
doing it on
always
Thursday.
forget the trash
I didn't
bag.
forget.
That's coming to Thursday as well. Thanks for letting me know. That's it for us. We'll see you later this week, everybody. Have a good week.